I've made a small update to my procedural texturing kit, and the purpose of this update is to make the thumbnails a bit more useful. So as I'm sure you already know, most of these procedural textures in Modo don't require a UV map. You can simply apply them using the solid projection type, and that's going to wrap the 3D texture around your mesh. And of course that's super useful, especially for meshes that are impractical to UV map, such as 3D scans or files that have been imported from CAD packages. And as you can see, this particular texture wraps perfectly around the mesh using the solid projection. But this doesn't apply to every single one of Modo's procedural textures. There are some that really don't map very well using this solid projection. So for example, if I disable this texture and we go to this plates texture, you can see that we run into all sorts of problems because the texture is only being projected through one axis. So we have the plates pattern here on this face, but here on the sides you can see that it's not being applied in the same way, and here where the mesh is curving we've got this awful stretching. So unfortunately this does mean that this plates map does actually need a UV map in order for it to be useful. So with that map selected, I'm going to change the projection type from solid to UV map. And once I do that, you can see that the results are much more satisfactory. And if I disable the plates map and select the windows map below it, you can see that we have exactly the same problem. The windows are only mapped on one axis, they're not mapping correctly on the sides, and we get the stretching bottom where the mesh is curved. So once again, this map needs to be applied using a UV map. And once I do this, you can see that the results are much nicer. And so I thought that the thumbnails in the procedural texture kit should really reflect this. It would be much more useful if you could tell at a glance which maps require a UV map and which maps can use the simple solid projection. So that's what I've done with this update. If I go back to the kits button and launch the procedural texture kit, you can see that all of these maps in the space section can be applied using the solid projection. But if I scroll to the bottom, and here we see the Windows map that I demonstrated a second ago, this has a very clear label saying that you need a UV map to apply this texture. And the same goes in the panel section, in the display section, and also in the tile section, where all of these maps really benefit from being applied using a UV map. But of course, in the noise and organic sections, as you can see, none of these textures require a UV map. So I hope this additional bit of functionality is going to make the kit more useful to you. I certainly find it useful in my workflow.